Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is sending love and prayers. Last night, our very own Ruth Anderson, the brilliant spirit who is the founder of Enlightened World Network, and all of its offshoots. Her house burned down in the Colorado fires last night. And what I'd like to do today is to spend our time together sending love and peace and prayers to Ruth and her family and all the people who are navigating and challenged by life's disruptions. So before we get started, let's take a moment to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And let's imagine clean, crisp oxygen refreshing every organ of our bodies and bringing vital life energy. And as we exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly rub our fingers against our palms, just to bring us present into this moment, into our bodies, into this remarkable and inexplicable, miraculous experience of life. So welcome. I'm just beside myself trying to imagine what it must be like. I've been blessed to communicate with Ruth this morning, and she saw her house burning on the news. And thank you, Rosalind. Good morning. Rosalind says, holding Ruth and her family in prayer to navigate the next steps with ease. I can say that I have never, we just texted because she was flying back from Texas this morning, but it's such poise and grace and even humor in the face of what most humans would experience as a completely devastating, crippling circumstance. I can't imagine what it was to be looking on the news and seeing your house burn. Apparently 600 plus homes were burned in the fires. And Ruth's home and her neighbor's home, no one was hurt. She was away at the time. And you guys may know Dido. Dido was house sitting for her and had to evacuate her animals. And thank God nobody was hurt. And apparently there have been no deaths through these fires. So it's just, I hate to say it, but when you hear about these things on the news, typically it's very separate from ourselves, right? We have a buffer, right? Because it's on the news, it's not in our lives. Too often, I think that's the case. And in this situation, yes, thank goodness for the animals. Ruth has 4 dogs that are all safe and sound, um, and were well tended by Dido. And thank God for Dido. And you know, it's that when it gets close to home, when it's up close and personal, when it's somebody that you have a connection with, uh, it the whole awareness of the intensity of the situation just expands exponentially. And I asked Ruth, what do the angels have to say about this? Because Ruth has very close guidance from the angels, and she said she felt Archangel Michael's presence with her throughout the whole time. And she has daughters, and just imagining what it is to be navigating such an unfathomable upheaval. The grace that Ruth is showing is incomprehensible to me. And I imagine that I don't know if it's true or not true, but I imagine that the other members of her family may not have the foundation and the connection to spirit that she does. So I don't know what it is for them to be trying to navigate this circumstance. Rosalind says, in this situation, we can tend to ask why. We can focus on the outcome of being on the other side. So, one of the exercises that I've shared with my coaching cohort is to look at a trauma in our lives and to source the gift, to find the gift in that trauma. And when something like this is happening, like this is something that has ramifications for months and months, to be getting life in order, rebuilding, just there's so many ramifications for something, this kind of cataclysmic event there, that there's a lot ahead. And there are always opportunities in tragedy. I guess tragedy is what we name it. But at the very least, this is a profound upheaval. And I hope and pray for the family that they're able to navigate it as an opportunity, or as many opportunities. And I can't imagine. I was trying to imagine, here I am talking about letting go of things, and deciding which things I want to keep, and feeling my attachment to the things that I've collected over a lifetime, and to have all of that go up in flames. I just, I can't imagine. And what arose for me, and it's very easy for this to occur when it's a thought exercise versus the actual experience of it, but that there's a certain freedom to it too. I don't know that that's something that people are going to be experiencing in the moment of the horror of it. But there's a freedom in new beginnings. And of course, there's the attachment and loss of things that we hold dear. And there's so many thoughts and feelings going through me in this moment, just trying to imagine what Ruth and her family are navigating. And I Ruth has so much grace. It's so she's such a remarkable spirit. And if anyone can weather this um, with grace, it's Ruth. Uh, and I still, she she's so remarkable. And I just want to be looking at how we as a generally are, we have our things that we're attached to. And this kind of event is so unimaginably disruptive for so many of us, right? Rosalind says, being uprooted, I imagine seeking safety as in shelter, food, and my loved ones will have what they need. Ruth does have a place to stay with her family and her animals. And, she sounds like she's got things, like she's handling things, and she said that they're doing a lot of processing, which of course they are and will be for quite some time, no doubt. And I have to say, this reminds me that my mom, when she was 16, my mom's house blew up from a gas explosion and they lost everything, and she almost lost her mother. And her mom, my grandmother, had more burns on her body than anybody prior to her had ever survived. And so it was very touch and go. And it scarred my mom for life. It's been something that has very much shaped her life, that unexpected explosion. And she was in the explosion. So, thankfully, the family was not in the fire. And it just brings me closer to a deeper understanding, or a deeper compassion, even a closeness for what that must have been like for my mom and for all the other people who have experienced such tremendous disruption of their lives. And to look at how we come back from such a thing, how we repair ourselves, how we integrate that kind of upheaval, that really can shake us to the very core of our being in terms of safety, right? Feeling safe in the world. And I know that that's not going to shift for Ruth. I know that Ruth is very deeply connected in a way that I don't imagine that her trust in the universe is going to be shaken by this. But I don't know about her family members and, the challenges that something like this presents. It's just crazy, so how do we navigate these kinds of situations? I think it's so important not to spiritually bypass And what I mean by that, to allow for the grief, to allow for the loss, to experience that, those experiences, those emotions, before moving right into trying to find the gift. Because it's such a mixed experience, like, yes, there are opportunities, but we also, it's so important to allow ourselves the space to grieve and to experience the loss, the rage, whatever the feelings are, to actually experience them, to allow for that as they arise, rather than just trying to transform them into something else. Good morning, Elaine. Welcome. It's great to have you here. And this morning, we're talking about the fact that last night, Ruth Anderson, who is the founder of Enlightened World Network and a tireless mentor to so many people, providing so much value and benefit, her house burned down in the Colorado fires. And thankfully, no one was hurt. Her animals are safe. She and her family are safe. Dido is the person who was watching out for her animals and house sitting, and Dido is safe, thankfully. And she was able to evacuate the animals. And, it's just such a profound event. And with long-standing consequences. And it just brings me present to the disruption that so many people experience, and the events in life that can be tragic, and yet we recognize that there are always opportunities in tragedy, in disruption, in upheaval, in trauma. And the thing is that we get to process the traumatic aspects. It's so important to allow for the emotions to recognize and allow them to move through before jumping into transforming our perception into blessings. Because this kind of thing, while we may even immediately see the blessings, which may or may not be likely, is mixed, because that we do have attachments to our living space, to the memories there, to the things that are attached to the memories, to the comfort and stability, the continuity. And when these patterns of being, through place or space or material or emotional things become disrupted, it challenges us in our very beingness. How do we be? How do we be in the face of things that raise, level the very level the very things by which so many of us identify ourselves. it can be very disrupting to identity. Does it need to be? No, but what as Rosalind said, the question that often arises is why. And there are multitudes of ways to answer those questions. And I think that there is a discipline that we get to exercise in asking why, to not be asking why from the vantage point of a victim. Yes, so Elaine says peaceful transition in this time of transformation all. Yes, it is a massive time of transformation. And if there's anyone who will optimize this opportunity for transformation, for sure, it's Ruth. Apparently there were 600 plus houses lost in these fires. And I don't know over what period of time, but Ruth's neighbor's home was also burned. And these kinds of circumstances, I encourage everyone to reach out with offers of support in whatever ways you have to be able to offer that. And certainly love and prayers and peace. And Elaine says, Happy New Year. So I also say Happy New Year. And, we were talking about endings and beginnings yesterday. And this example is such a profound example of endings and beginnings, to happen at New Year's. It's you too, Elaine. Elaine says, have a beautiful day. Rosalind says, retraining the nervous system with a new normal. Yeah, we have the opportunity to transcend victimhood, to move to a new level of presence. There's, like I said, the grace with which Ruth navigates the world is just so inspiring and remarkable to me. I think a question rather than why that might be a really empowering question is what now or what next? Or, like, what is my next best step? What is my next best action? But as I said, I really believe that it's so important before moving into that to be present to processing the disruption. And Rosalind says, accepting, allow, and align. Yeah, to be able to recognize what's so. And part of that is that there are visceral responses to these things, like the perhaps horror, perhaps confusion. I can't imagine that there wouldn't be a deep sense of loss. And maybe, a deep sense of appreciation for the safety, for whatever else might be remaining, for, it's such a mixed bag. And, it, in a situation like this, it's so clearly present what a mixed bag it is. And so as we were talking yesterday about endings and beginnings, we do get to choose. We do get to choose. And sometimes it feels in the thick of things that those choices are made for us. But in terms of even emotional choices, the reactivity and the shock and whatever, we move through so many feelings so quickly. And somehow, and it's kind of crazy, as we talk about endings and beginnings, that I feel like, in the scheme of things, if my house were to burn down, I would prefer that it burned down at the end of the year rather than the beginning of the new year. Somehow, it's because we do get to close the door on something. I think it's going to be really, really fresh to be closing the door on this by tonight. But we do, in any given moment, have the opportunity to choose. And the first thing is to honor our feelings as they arise. This is so important in facing anything in life, and especially moments of such profound disruption, disorientation. I have to say that it didn't, in my communication with Ruth, she sounded completely present and grounded. And that's a gift. And, when we're present, we get to be present to this moment and this moment and this moment and this moment. And I think that she's like a beacon for us to emulate in so many ways, and going into the new year to allow for a new beginning for all of us, and to be at cause, to be our own creators, to welcome this albeit manufactured kind of marker, but to utilize that to allow ourselves to start fresh, and to be standing in creatorship, and to be at the helm of our lives, allowing ourselves to navigate the waters as they occur, to be in collaboration with life as it unfolds for us. So with that, I wish you joy in the new year, health, happiness, vision, presence more than anything. I wish you presence and peace. And I can't thank you enough for everything you've given me by being here and engaging. And please do, let's send our prayers and love and energy of peace to Ruth and her family, and to all those who are navigating the challenges of life's disruptions. And it will be my pleasure and honor to see you in the new year. We get to say goodbye to 2021. It's been a challenging year, and may 2022 be filled with more grace and many blessings. So much love to you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. See you next year.